He was a professional. He actually read my kick, which I'm impressed about, that he had both hands up and it still went through. And that's because I don't kick to score points. I kick to put you out. Just like when you break a board, you teach at, the beginner level, go through the board. You don't stop at the board. Yeah, you need to be able to learn from your experiences and protect yourself at all times. This is something that, I learned even in Olympic style, is like, sometimes the match is going to be against you and it's up to you to protect yourself and win.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. I am your host, Master Joseph Lupo Jr. And on tonight's explosive knockout episode, I am joined by the amazing professional martial artist, Mr. William Findley, fresh off a 20-second knockout in karate combat. Sir, I see that you just finished training.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had jiu-jitsu and MMA tonight.
Nice. And where are you talking to us from?
I train out at Eddie Alvarez Underground Kings in Philadelphia.
Nice. And for the audience, I'm sure most of the audience knows who Mr. Eddie Alvarez is, professional MMA icon, world champion, so it's got to be an amazing feeling for you to be surrounded by amazing individuals like that.
Yes, sir. I'm in the right place.
I'm a firm believer in iron sharpens iron, and if anyone is iron, it's you. I'm sure people, you got quite a following on social media. You post up all your workouts, which to me is super inspiring. Being a 45 going on 46-year-old, not just school owner, but also I consider myself an athlete, and I love looking at the young guys like you. Motivates me. I think it's great. Is that why you have that social media presence?
I appreciate that. The social media presence has been interesting because it's really helped me get to where I'm at. If you come from somewhere that's, all my Olympic style career being non-affiliated, not being a part of a team, coach, all that, the social media presence really got me. Say brand deals, equipment, being seen to get into leagues, getting into Kombat Taekwondo on the first card, getting into karate combat. So yeah, the social media presence is today's, it's what it is today. You didn't have that back in the day,
Yeah, and the beauty of it, and that's why I don't knock it too much. I know a lot of people have a negative connotation about social media, but when it's used the right way, it's super positive. And all it does is it just takes some time. It's free at the end of the day.
The image that you put out is major. When you're,
of course,
when you're a high level athlete, you have an image that you have to put out. That's what separates some of the high level athletes and fighters, is the day to day, your opponents see it. School owners see it. Young kids looking up to you see it. It's major, besides for the benefits that it has for you individually.
Sure. No, and you're bringing up some great points, and we're going to talk more about that tonight. But really quickly, a shout out to Best Martial Arts for all your martial arts needs. Check them out. They are the official apparel company of A Black Belt Way of Life. To Kick Fit Taekwondo shoes, BBWOL at checkout for a nice pair of Taekwondo shoes, a nice little discount on it. So getting back to it, my man Will, fresh off a night of training, here at A Black Belt Way of Life, I love talking about the journey. The journey is so important. I'm still on it. I'm blessed. Like I said, at 45, I gave up my age. I've been on this journey now for basically my entire life. I want to hear your journey. I want to know where professional martial arts fighter William Findley got his start, what inspired you into martial arts, and what keeps you going at the end of the day, because anybody could start something, but not everyone could keep going. So bring us back to that spark. What was your inspiration to start this journey?
So first of all, the journey is the most important part. I've had a lot of like high moments in my career, especially recently. Um, you have to remember that initial spark and why you do it. So you have to remember when you're 4 years old going into the dojang for the first time. You have to remember all
Right.
the days that your parents sat there with you when you were a little kid. You have to remember
Hmm.
when I was at nationals and you saw the Olympians walk by and looked up to them, right? That it's like now you're in a role at the high level that you have some kid that's looking up to you like that. So
Right.
you have to do it for the right reason, and it has to be your reason. Can't be anybody else's reason.
Right. Right. No, we can't lose sight of that. That's what keeps us humble. That's what keeps us grounded. That's so important. Um, so what brought you into that dojang at 4 years old? Is that when you started?
Yeah, I started at 4 years old. I fell in love with it. Of course, sparring was my favorite thing initially. Instantly fell in love with
Right.
that. Had my first nationals at 7 years old. Um, worked my
Wow.
way up. you know, at a young age, you look at Olympics as the goal. You know, it
Hmm.
you learn that there's a process that goes behind it that might be political. You might not have the right pathway or whatever, right? So you have
Hmm.
to adapt. Just like when you're in a match, if you're in a fight, you have to be able to adapt. And after winning the 2023 uh, nationals, I was like, okay, I did exactly what the pathway was, right? Give me my opportunity, right? And then I'm like, man, I just did that. The guys that are being, funded, they're not wanting to fight me.
Hmm.
It's like, what do I do? You know, you go there, you're knocking everybody down, right? You're going knocking
Hmm.
people out in Olympic style. And then Combat Taekwondo popped up, right? And I'm like,
Right.
you know
Right.
what? Let me just apply. I don't know what this is, right? Let me just apply.
Hmm.
I ended up being the first one to sign in that league. Um, not only was I the first American, but I was the first North American to fight on that first card. I didn't have a coach team. I was going in, just myself, right? I had my dad corner me. And that was the biggest step, was just going into something, going into a cage, going in with hands. It wasn't just kicking anymore. It wasn't just scoring points. It was a real
Right.
fight.
Right. Right.
And there's a difference between an
No more
athlete and a
electronics
fighter.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the real deal now. And then I had a few more fights within the combat taekwondo, and then it led me to the karate combat, which I just done. We can break
Yeah.
into more detail of each one, but that spark from when you initially start and the reason, and if you remember when you stepped into the dojang as a little kid, you need to remember that
Hmm.
every time. There was a time when you're 4 years old and it's like stepping onto the dojang mat for the first time, right? Then
Right.
it's like,
Right.
okay, I'm stepping in to this level of Olympic style. Then I'm stepping into the combat cage and you see that door shut and it's way different,
Hmm.
right? Then you're going to other countries, fighting other countries. And then when you're sliding down that karate combat pit, that's way
In
different.
that pit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I like to keep challenging myself. Um, my biggest thing is I want to be dominant, right? I want everyone in the world to know who I am, what taekwondo is, real taekwondo, and I want them to look at the USA like we mean business. That's something that I was kind of surprised about when I went to my first combat taekwondo. event in Bogota, Colombia.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
I went there, and when they're treating me and saying things like they expected me to be weak, right? I'm like, this is not
Really?
how you should view the US. Like, maybe it's just a senior division thing. I know you guys got it locked down in the masters division, right? You represent,
Mhm.
but I
No,
think that,
we do.
just like you said about the social media presence, that's major, right? That people are always watching, you know, that when you're in Olympic style, sometimes it's like you go to the tournament and it starts on competition day. When you're
Mhm.
fighting in, say, the combat taekwondo, karate combat, MMA, these things, the event starts 5, 6 weeks out, right? When the
Right.
difference is, it's like when you go into the host hotel for an Olympic style event, everybody's like, "Hi, hi, hello, sir," right? When you go into
Mhm.
one of these, you walk in and you see your opponent across the hotel room just eyeing you down, and it's like, okay, we're here, we mean business, right? Total different
Right.
experience,
Okay.
so you
And
have to
have
be
you
able to
been able
adapt to that.
you just literally just took the words out of my mouth, has adapting to that change been difficult? How have you approached that?
Yeah, not a lot of people can do it, right? I'm used to adaptation. If I go back to 2023 Nationals, I went in without a coach. I met the coach that coached me that day, like 5 minutes before I went out, and that was Russ Gale. I appreciate him for stepping in and coaching me through three
Mhm.
fights and winning it that day. That it's like when you're in there, it's like you should know what to do, right? I don't need to rely on anybody, So when I went into Bogota, with my father in my corner, it's like I do the training. When I'm in there, it's up to me, and that's the part that I love is like when you win, it's on you.
Wow. And obviously what I really want to get into right now is you basically just gave us a synopsis of, your mental preparation going into the match. I want the audience to understand what goes into being, because to I words carry a lot of weight in my life. For me to come out here tonight and call you a professional, I want the audience to understand what goes into being a professional fighter. A lot of people like to come out and say that they're athletes and say that they're this, kind of quote unquote faking the funk. But I really want the audience to understand what goes on the daily life of Mr. William. Tell the audience.
Well, going off what you said, a lot of people like to call themselves certain things, right? There's a term, high performance athletes, right? You have a lot of Taekwondo players that consider themselves fighters, right? And it's like when Combat Taekwondo came out, right? I was the only one that was like from USA Taekwondo that was stepping up to do this thing, right? I'm like, I'll represent
Mhm.
guys. And you would think that I would have more support from, the USA Taekwondo, like the Taekwondo in the USA backing, your
Yeah.
fellow athletes and stuff. And I did not. If anything, that's who wanted me to lose the most, right? And I love that. I love that because it's like I prove you wrong over and over and over again. And when you
I
ask
tell
me,
people the greatest drink in the world is haterade.
dude, yeah, man, it's good. It tastes good. But
Tastes real
yeah,
good.
what goes into the life of me that a lot of these other top high performance athlete players have is they're getting handouts, stipends. I've never had
Hmm.
handouts, right? And it's like you got me messed up if you think that I'm going to be across one of them and not want to dominate, you know? And that's what I go in and do. I'm not looking to just go win. I consider it a loss if I go in and just win. I want a knockout. I want to hold up that flag, go against another country and be like, we're the winners. You know, the day in the life for me um, is a lot different from a lot of Taekwondo athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I wake up at 3 a.m. for to work at the FedEx warehouse, come home, I'm getting at least 2 to 3 trainings a day. I have to travel an hour up and an hour back to this gym from where I live, and it's a day-to-day thing, right? There's a difference between when you get to the high level and when you talk about what professional is, right? A lot of people judge that on the the money that's coming in. To me, just because you're getting a monthly stipend doesn't mean that you're professional. You're still competing at the amateur level, right? Um, where me, when I go in the fight, let's say for this previous karate combat, I have a show up pay and I have a win bonus, right? And there can be
Mm-hmm.
other things like, the ticket sales or knockout bonus, like other little
Sure, sure,
things that can
sure.
be in there. But it's like when I'm going in to get more money if I win, so it makes you more hungry day to day. And not just that, it's like I'm trying to build a full career out of this. Right now, my goal is to transition into the full MMA, get into UFC. I've got the right team and coach to do that with. That was a major puzzle piece that was missing my whole, career. All my taekwondo's, Olympic taekwondo, and then even my 3 matches in combat taekwondo by myself. That it's like now you see that when I have that corner behind me, I go in there 22-second knockout. Right? It's like on point.
Right. Oh, I was
And
off by 2 seconds in the intro. I said 20
I
seconds.
Now,
22.
technically might be a little salty on it because they started the bell when we're on opposite sides. I went in, touched
All right.
gloves. That it's like the action though, it was only 2 round kicks, right? The action was like short. So whatever you want to consider it. But the
Mhm.
official, when you look up the official sanction records, it does say 22 seconds.
What I'm getting at everything you're saying is a mindset.
When you go through certain obstacles, right? You have to create an upward spiral yourself. And initially it might be delusional. A lot of people are going to be like,
Mm.
yeah, right. But then you go and you take this step, you believe it more. Other people will start to believe it more, right? There's a difference between when I'm like, I'm going to go and demonstrate real taekwondo and I'm going to get the world to look at taekwondo different. What I want to
Yeah.
do is I want to make it to the UFC, use my taekwondo, and people be like, wow, taekwondo is badass. And then people, when they go to the grocery store and they see a taekwondo school next to the grocery store, they're like, hey, let's go check that out. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Because we see this guy dominating in taekwondo, that taekwondo is looked upon better, that it's looked upon
Mhm.
as a self defense art. I went 4 fights professional and haven't got hit in any of them. And I know my time's coming. I'm competing at the high level, and that's what I look forward to.
Of course.
I look forward to showcasing that it's like, okay, I am in here to win. I want someone to bring it to me, and that's why I went into one of the top strike leagues in the world, Karate Combat, to prove that.
Well, because the way I see it, this mindset of yours, this warrior mindset that you got, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Because obviously you brought up your parents. Obviously you brought up your father was in your corner. So it's safe to assume right now they're your number one support. Did that
Yes.
mindset come from your parents? What sparked this mindset?
Yeah, there's been a lot of say late nights that I've had talks with my parents. They've been by my side since I was 4 years old, believing in me. Right. When I tell them that I have
Mhm.
this goal, we all work together to make this come true. And
That's beautiful.
yeah, like when I'm in there in the cage, in the pit, whatever arena, I'm representing myself, my family. Now I have a team to represent and my country.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna go and be weak in there. I'm gonna go and dominate.
Nice, nice. That's so important for the audience, that I've said it on many, many episodes with many guests that have been on this, in order to be successful, yes, you're the one in there, in the pit, in the cage, on the mat, doing the work. But that village is so important. We all need, that village to back us up. Like, you know, my school, we call ourselves, we got a wolf pack. We're all there for each other. Win or lose, we're all there for each other. We're all there to pick
Mhm.
each other up. Because it's never about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get up. And when you have that support behind you, it's so, so, so important. Do you feel a better version of yourself, being that now you not only have your amazing parents supporting you, but now you have a full camp. You have this amazing village. How does that inspire you to want to achieve more greatness now that you have this behind you?
Now, you just talked about a wolf pack, right? I know what it's like to be a lone wolf, right? So now when I have a
Hmm.
backing of a wolf pack, I appreciate it more than say someone that was just given that initially. I appreciate it more.
Right,
I appreciate
right.
my coaches, training partners a lot more. I take advantage of everything that I have in front of me now.
No, that's so, so, so important. And so you're out there, and I've had the honor to watch your fights. I ran home, and I put on that YouTube, and man, I was jumping out of my chair, man. I have to say, man, I loved it. I'm a fan. I'm a
Thank you.
fan. I love fighting, and it was just amazing, amazing to watch, and I watch your combat taekwondo matches as well. And one thing I noticed, and it's so funny, we spoke earlier about it. I said hold it because that was one of my questions. And one thing I noticed, I saw you going in there with that American flag. And in my own head, I said to myself, I bet you anything that is the same American flag you walk into the ring with. Does that flag have a significance?
Yeah, I do have the same American flag every time.
All
Um,
right.
it's very important to me to go in there with the flag. It starts with when I'm in the back and I have that flag around me and I'm getting my hands taped, right, and I'm getting locked in,
Mm-hmm.
right, and then they say fighter ready, and you're standing there. Sometimes it's underground behind the audience, and then you hear that music play, and you go out and you can represent your country, right? And when I'm going out and I see uh, another fighter holding their flag and I'm holding my flag, it's something very special. And both parties definitely respect that. um, it's interesting that you brought that up because that means so much to me. Not just representing myself, but my country. Um, you know, a few years ago, I went to the National Academy, Taekwondo Academy in Colorado
Mm-hmm.
Springs. And at the end of the 2 weeks that I was there for, they brought me into the office and they asked me, why would you want to be on this team? And I said, it would be an honor to represent my country at the highest level. And, you know, I kind of got an answer that still pisses me off to this day. And they said,
Ooh.
it shouldn't be about that, it should be to win. If it's about winning, why aren't you winning? Where's your results? Right. Um, and
Hmm.
I have to remember that they're not going to understand because they're not American. Right. To me, it's
Hmm.
everything. To me, it's everything. Right. I'm American. Right. I'm representing America. Right. So it's like, I guess that there's not going to understand. Right. And you definitely see the change of when you had the Lopez era, Terrence Jennings, like those guys that when I was a kid, I looked up to. You were in the convention center at a nationals and you see them walk by and you're like, wow, they presented themselves well. they had the flag, and that has changed to the current day. And I will be that lone wolf that goes on a different path, say at the professional level, something way more dangerous. And
Mhm.
I will represent Taekwondo and my country. And I don't care what anybody has to say about it. That
Right.
to me, it is
You bring
the
such
biggest
an interesting
honor
thing right there.
is when
Yeah.
I'm in the back and I have that flag on and I know I'm about to go out there. But it's even cooler when you get that knockout and you run up top of the cage and you're holding it in front of a different country audience and they're yelling USA, USA. That's something really
Mhm.
special, that I'll definitely cherish forever.
No, that's some real pride right there. And you brought up some names that I know well, obviously my whole life in Taekwondo, and I've been around for such a long time, and those are homegrown American athletes, you know, um, that unfortunately, and I don't that unfortunately are not where they should be. Let's just leave it there. There has to be some type of pride, and hey, you're exemplifying it. You're exemplifying it. You are that's some real talk right there, and I definitely appreciate it. Um,
Thank you. Yeah,
wow.
it's like I have this opportunity now to go into the high level and be different, be the first one to go do this. And there's a huge risk involved. you know um, it's a dangerous thing, but you have to accept that, you have to embrace that,
Right.
you know and some people like won't understand what the feeling is, and it's like, that's okay. you know um
Hmm.
not
What
everybody's
it
going to
reminds me of
see
that.
what you
It reminds me
envision.
of that. Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of that Mike Tyson quote. Everyone's got something to say until they got punched in the face. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and bringing that up. What you're bringing up right now. Explain to the audience. What goes into the recovery process, because I've always been taught that any sport or even in combat, you know, when you step into that ring, cage, pit, mat, whatever it is, that's when we show everything we've done in training. From what I've always seen, majority of injuries, most times than not, always happen in training. You know, Speak to the audience about your recovery process and how much time you devote to that.
Well, going off of some previous things we just talked about, um, you know, I didn't make it public. I'm not looking to have anybody, feel sorry for you or whatever. Before
Mhm.
this fight, 3 weeks before this karate combat fight, I hurt my ankle. It was all swelled up, and me and my coaches are like, "Should we accept this fight?" And, luckily, I have the social media presence. I created a brand deal with a company called Elite Edge. They have hyperbaric chambers, red light, ice baths,
Mhm, mhm.
you name it, all the recovery steps that I take, But so I got able to do that. But mentally, it's like, man, I'm going to fight somebody, make my debut in this. I'm here for a single fight contract. I'm going to fight to get a multi-fight contract. It's like, damn, why is this happening? And if anything, it made me want it even more. And the foot that I injured is
Mm.
the only foot that I ended up using in there. You know what I mean? That just is funny. But what happened was I healed up and everything. A day before I fly out, I was going to fight a German fighter. We get a call that he broke his hand and that there's an opponent change, right? So we go, okay. I was going to fight at minus 205. We got a replacement at minus 205. Okay. We get to Miami. I see my suitcase coming through the thing. And then my coach goes, Will. And I instantly knew. I'm like, opponent change. He's like, yeah, your backup missed his medicals. So
Oh,
I'm like, do they have a replacement? And he goes, yes. Now, you can either take this as a vacation and get your show up money, or you can cut 15 pounds in 20 hours to get to a catch weight
ooh,
at 190 and fight. And I said, I just went through a whole training camp. I've been training my whole life to I am making this weight. And I already had dropped down to make the 205, right? But I went, did it, no
wow.
problem.
Wait. So you had to drop 15 pounds in 24 hours?
In about 20 hours, I cut 15 pounds.
Oofa.
Um, all the water weight, sauna, steam room,
Mm-hmm.
jacuzzi. I have high level coaches that were monitoring, okay, you can have this little snack, this amount of water. So I had,
Mm-hmm.
professionals helping me out with that, which is great. But it's like, it was all meant to be, when I got in there and you had that performance.
Nothing,
I'm
nothing
so
was gonna
glad that
stop you. And
I took that, and if I went back to my last fight in combat taekwondo in Nice, France, against the Senegal opponent, that was an
mhm,
opponent change as well. I thought that I was going to fight a Brazilian. I found out as I was going to the Philadelphia airport, opponent change. You're going to fight this 6'6" Senegal guy, and I go, all right, you know, like I want to prove that I'm the best. It doesn't matter who you put in front of me. So these are things that a lot of people don't realize that happens. Versus in Olympic style, a lot of the high level guys that we praise are used to just going in, getting a bye, winning one match, getting a bronze, and then we pat their back. That there's a total difference, in what I'm doing now than the player side.
this is great stuff, and this is straight up warrior mentality that we're hearing right now. No matter who they put in front of you, you were gonna take that fight, injured foot or not. That's some strong mindset right there. And that's commendable, man. So now let's being that we're on this topic, your last fight that has gone viral,
Yeah.
viral. This 20-second knockout. It was great listening to the commentators talking about how Taekwondo has always had that connotation. Oh, we fight with our hands down. There's a little bit of a reason behind that. And the guy highlighted it. He said, because Taekwondo, we're going to kick through your hands. And that's
Yes.
exactly what you did. There was no head movement there. And that was just a straight up shot. He
Mhm.
he was out before he hit the floor. You threw a couple of shots afterwards. I don't care what people say. You did your job. You know,
Yeah. Thank you.
and you don't stop until the ref stops it, and that's it. That's the way it goes. That's a fight. You really highlighted the strength of Taekwondo, and that's something that all of us, me included, as a Taekwondo school owner, that's something that you know we commend you for and we thank you for. Now you get this victory, the knockouts everywhere. What has happened since then? Did you get your multi-fight contract?
Yeah, the Karate Combat wants me back. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? I gotta
Yeah,
put that
so
pin on my calendar, man. Talk to me.
yeah,
Are we allowed
so
to talk about it first
yeah, so our next, contract isn't signed yet, but we have an offer. Yeah,
Nice.
you'll be see
Congratulations.
thank you, sir. Yeah, you'll be seeing me a lot more within that league, and then branch out to the full MMA from there. But, you brought up, a point with, um, kicking through the guard, right? He was a
Hmm.
professional. He actually read my kick, which I'm impressed about, right? That he had both hands up and it still went through. And that's because
Yeah.
I don't kick to score points. I kick to put you out, right? Just like when you
Right.
break a board, right? You teach at, the beginner level, go through the board. You don't stop at the board, right? You go through the
Hit the
board.
person behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I like that you brought up, the shots followed afterwards. That's something that, I'm willing to talk about is, in my last fight in Nice, France, I hit my opponent, he goes down, and multiple times throughout that fight, I was waving, "Stop, stop," right? And the ref was not stopping it. And he got up and almost got me a few times, right? Until I did another left leg round kick to the head, got him out,
Hmm.
and then his team threw in the towel, right?
Yep.
That
Yep. I
you
remember
you
that.
need to yeah, you need to be able to learn from your experiences and protect yourself at all times. This is something that, I learned even in Olympic style is like sometimes the match is going to be against you and it's up to you to protect yourself and win.
Right. There's no time to point fingers in directions, if things are not going your way, and I always say the worst thing about pointing a finger out is that four are pointed back at you when you're pointing that finger out. And it's up to you. You got to make that decision, like that. And you got to be ready to go. If something's not going your way, you got to take it into your own hands. So you learned from that experience in combat taekwondo and you brought it into the pit,
Mhm.
and you kept going after that beautiful left head kick went straight through his guard and he dropped. You kept going because you learned you're not going to stop until the ref pulls you off.
Yeah, and it's like I was fighting for a multi-fight contract, right? It's like I'm
Hmm.
also fighting to make a career out of this. This is like I'm fighting to change my life, right? That it's like right now, I barely get any sleep, right? I got from here, drive an hour back home, eat, get maybe 2 hours of sleep, and then I'm going to FedEx and throwing boxes, right? That while I'm throwing those boxes, what am I thinking about? Taekwondo, winning,
Hmm.
right? Getting these deals. It's like it has to be on your mind 24/7.
Right.
Like
It's an obsession. It's an
this is where
obsession. And
when I see some high level athletes, and this is other countries notice this, and that's why they look upon the US like this. That when you see high level athletes talking about fashion, vacations, right? That they're excited to go to this tournament for vacations, right? It's like I just had the opportunity to go to Miami and be like, "Oh, my opponents didn't show up. Okay, I can enjoy Miami. Miami's a beautiful place, right?
right, right, right.
No, I am here for a job, right? This is my time, and I
Hmm.
really see things starting to pick up for me um, now. And I truly believe that if you believe in yourself and you can honestly say that you put everything into it, eventually you will be rewarded.
Right. You reap what you sow, and you're really, really exemplifying right now extreme tunnel vision. That's what I'm getting out of this. You really need to put on those blinders because there's distractions coming at us from every angle. Because that's such is life. Such is life. But your blinders are focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's becoming, a champion. Is that where you see yourself one day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see myself being looked upon as the best that Taekwondo has, right? That I will be a staple name for Taekwondo. There's
Hmm.
different types of Taekwondo, and that's great. But when you talk about real Taekwondo and being looked upon as that guy can defend himself, or like, I want to learn from him because his stuff works, right? Or the mentality that you put off, or how you present yourself. That when you are out in the normal public, someone will stop you and be like, "Hey, what sport do you play?" Or, "Hey, are you a fighter?" And you can be like, "Yeah, I am. Thank you for asking. Um, I do
Mhm.
Taekwondo. And then a lot of the response is Taekwondo, right? And a lot of these high performance athletes, all they have to show for it is here's me at the podium at this event. And it's like
Mhm.
they leave out, oh, I had a guaranteed bronze, right? Oh, I only scored 2 points that day, right? That
Mhm.
their glory is being on the podium once. With me, like when you talk about the social media, it's like every single match, I want something to be remembered. If you look at Bogota, Colombia, 20-foot back kick, right? You look at France, there's something. You look at karate combat, there's something. That
Mhm.
in this, it's like besides being the fighter, there is the entertainment business. And I want to stay professional. I want to stay true to who I am, what a martial artist should be, following the tenets, um, and have the entertainment just be badass taekwondo, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let it
Yeah,
speak for
you're
itself.
yeah, exactly. You're selling yourself with your technique. It doesn't have to be, what we spit verbally, you're doing it with your actions, and I understand it now more so than ever. With everything you have said, I understand your nickname more than ever with what you have said. Tell the audience about why you are the Taekwondo symbiote.
I really
I
appreciate you saying
understand it.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's really something special that when you can have the crowd yelling your name or yelling your country
Mhm.
or yelling symbiote, right? Or yelling
Mhm.
Taekwondo symbiote. Um, it means something very special to me. It comes from the superhero Venom. He's an anti-hero.
Yep.
Um, he's doing things for the right reasons, but might be looked upon initially kind of like a dark force, right? And it's like I did
Mhm.
kind of go a certain route that is out of the norm, right? Not um kissing up to people, right? That it's like I'm doing my own thing and I'm gonna make it, right? And with the symbiote can find host with different things, right? So I can go
Mhm.
into Olympic style and find host dominate, combat taekwondo dominate, right? Karate combat dominate. That it's like I'm branching out with that. So
Mhm.
the symbiote name definitely means a lot to me.
That is great. That is great. And this has been an action packed episode with so much knowledge that you've been dropping and really, really giving the audience a chance to really understand you, not only as a fighter, but as a person. And this is great. This is great stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
I
You
don't,
know, when you say about understanding me as a fighter and a person, that it's like I
mhm.
am the symbiote, I am William, right? And with Venom, Venom talks to his host. It's a bond, right?
Mhm.
So it's like even though I think about this dream 24/7, it's like you're pairing it with your normal day to day. I'm working my way up so that I can be able to just train and not be at FedEx. But right now it is the journey and that's the most important part. And it's shaping me
Mhm.
to be what I am in there, shaping me to be more hungry when I'm in there. That it's very important, um, when you're in the ring, whether it's the cage, pit, whatever, you have conversations with yourself when you're in there to be
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, I got to control my heart rate. Okay, I see this. I'm trying to set this up. I think that one of the best things is when I am at FedEx throwing those boxes, I'm having those conversations. When I'm driving an hour up and an hour back after training, I'm having those conversations. with myself, that it's a time of reflection, that is very important
Self-talk.
to, yeah, to reflect and um, be honest with yourself.
Nice, nice. You know, with all that you said, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you got to drive back. I know you gotta grind real soon. Will, I want you to take this time to shout out everyone you got to shout out. We're gonna put all their notes in the show notes, all their information. You know, take this time, you know, to really give everyone a shout out.
Well, first off, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate what you do, not just because you're having me on it, but it gives an opportunity to inspire maybe young athletes, older athletes, any role that someone has within the Taekwondo field, whether you're a master, school owner, ref, anything. That's something really special.
Respect. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. Respect.
you know, we touched on it earlier in the podcast that I have this team now under Eddie Alvarez Underground Kings that I believe that we're gonna make a career together. And then I want to thank my family, my mother and
Yes.
father for just being by my side. We've went through a lot of obstacles within this journey, and we're making it now. And then finally, I want to thank myself
Nice.
for just never giving up. you know,
There you go.
you
Real
gotta be
talk
proud of
right there. I
yourself,
love
man.
that.
Yeah,
Right. No, that's truer words never been said. I love it. I love it.
yeah.
Mr. Will, you got a fan in me.
Thank you.
I hope and I pray for you that great things are gonna come your way, because if anyone deserves it, it's you. Keep doing you, and well, I got faith in you, man. I got faith. I'm a fan, and I'm gonna spread the word. You know, you got my wolf pack behind you, man. That's for sure.
Appreciate it, sir. That means a lot.
I love it. And with that being said, thank you, audience, for tuning in to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. Make sure to check us out wherever you consume your podcasts. For a martial arts company, if you're interested, Best Martial Arts, the official apparel company of A Black Belt Way of Life. All their notes will be in the show notes. Check out KickFit for a nice pair of Taekwondo shoes, BBWOL at checkout for a nice little discount. In the words my father always said, a black belt is worn around your heart, never your waist. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. A Black Belt Way of Life was produced by Press Record Studios.